Good morning and welcome to the Daily Summation podcast from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm Kurt. I am your host. Today is Monday, the 26th of October, 2020, and it is a dreary day here in my little area in the world. I just wanted to talk today about a blog post that I wrote called Piling On, and it is my inaugural attempt at doing a video on autism. So a little bit of background. I have an autistic son. He's moderately autistic. I try to kind of explain that to people in the following way. I say, this is what you're used to. This is mild autism. This is severe autism. And here is my son in the moderate. So he's in the middle, basically, of the autism spectrum. And this presents a number of interesting issues, right? So I started out the article by talking about quick clickbait, right? The things that you see on various social media sites and various other places that you might go that'll talk about where are the Brady Bunch today, which of these 70s actors and actresses do you know? Well, there was one of those, they catch everybody, right? They catch me. I'm certainly one of the people that they catch every once in a while. And they had one that was, did you realize that these celebrities, these well-known people were autistic? Well, there was an interesting reality about what they said. And the reality is, in actuality, one of two things was true about every one of the people listed, okay? Either there was never any diagnosis of autism, or the people were diagnosed as what they refer to as Asperger's, which these days most people just refer to as mild autism, right? Nobody that they talked about was given a diagnosis of anything higher than mild autism. Now, they might have been moving towards the moderate side of things, but probably for most of them the answer is not. That's probably not the case. So the thing is, it came to me some time ago that a lot of people, the most serious form of autism that they see on a regular and ongoing basis is mild autism, what is often referred to as Asperger's. Don't get me wrong, there's a learning curve and there are a number of things that have to happen for people who are mildly autistic, but when you have a person who's moderately autistic, particularly if they're tending towards severe or severely autistic, the things that have to happen just to bring that person to a place where they can speak in many instances, it's an amazing journey, right? And so, my thing about all of that I wish I could get people to understand is just how true that is. A lot of times what will happen is I'll take my son to one of the local parks, as I've said before. And I do that primarily, I do it because he wants to play, right? Every kid wants to play. He's 8 years old. He wants to play. But I also do it in order to try and give him social training that he will not get anywhere else. Because when he goes to school, he deals with people his own age, and he's in very much a controlled environment where the teachers have to do things a particular way and all of the staff are trained to deal with those kids in particular ways. And the students that they're among typically are the special needs students, because moderate and above autism, you can't really put them in normal classrooms as a rule. So the problem is that he doesn't get enough socialization with people who are not his own age and who are not somehow special needs. I'm not saying he doesn't get any of that at school. Of course he does. But I'm saying he doesn't get as much of that as he really needs. So I take him to the park and other places sometimes when I can in order to help him to get some more social training. But part of the problem is he gets angry, he gets upset, he gets frustrated, and he acts in ways that other people look at as either disgusting or improper or whatever. And I work very hard to keep him from getting into those places, but the problem is if I don't let him get into those places, he doesn't get used to being there. So literally yesterday, he was trying to play badminton with another little kid, and he couldn't hit the shuttlecock, of course, because he'd never tried it before, and it upset him terribly, and he was trying to stomp the shuttlecock into the ground and beat the the racket, which of course it was somebody else's to begin with, so I didn't want to destroy it for that purpose. But frankly, I wouldn't have wanted it destroyed anyway. That's just not something you do. But for him, he shows his frustration, and a lot of people get very upset about how he behaves. And here's the a big problem with that. Because I've spent a lot of time, and his teachers at his school and various others who have worked with him have spent a lot of time to get him to where when other people encounter him, he seems more or less normal, which it's less true, funnily, for kids than it is for adults. Because the kids know right away, talking to him, that he doesn't deal with the world like they do. He says things that they don't understand. They say things he doesn't understand. They want to do things that he still hasn't come to comprehend. He still doesn't know about tag. He still doesn't know about hide and seek properly. He still can't probably count to 20 most of the time. Sometimes he can manage it. That's why I say probably. Sometimes he can manage to get all the way to 20. Usually if he's lucky, he gets to 10, and then he starts to mess it all up. And the thing about that is, these are just hallmarks of what it means for him to be an autistic child. That's just how it is. And in his case, he may never get to the point where he's beyond that, right? So that's something that you have to kind of keep in mind about my son. Well, of course, a lot of people, they look at kids and they say, they look at the kids anyway, and they say kids should be dealt with like this and so forth, because parents unfortunately tend to believe themselves to be experts when they have 5-year-olds, right? Well, I've got a 35-year-old and I'm no expert, okay? And that's particularly true when it comes to autism. And here's the thing that a lot of people don't understand. What you see most of the time is mild autism. Oh, you've got a cousin or a nephew or even one of your own children that's mildly autistic. Let me tell you a secret. That individual, even if you are not dealing with the world from the same place as a moderately or severely autistic individual. I promise you that. They live in a totally different world by comparison, even to mildly autistic individuals. That's just how that is. So whether you think so or not, what you think is probably going to work for my child, if you had to actually try it and if you had to implement it, you would find out just how wrong you are. And I don't say that in order to be mean. It's like anything. If you don't know it, you might think you know it, but you really don't, right? If you think you know it, that's great. But the reality is, when you actually have to deal with that moderately or severely autistic kid, it's an entirely different process than anything you've dealt with before. And so there's this tendency for people to pile on me when my son behaves in bad ways. And look, I get it. I do. And again, for me, frankly, it doesn't affect me all that strongly. I'm not saying it doesn't bother me at all. It does. Sometimes it really bothers me, though mostly I tend to internalize that. But the thing that really upsets me is when the piling on happens with regard to my child. He doesn't understand. He doesn't get it, what you're expecting of him and so forth. And that's not because people haven't tried. His teachers, the various aides and so forth, and other people who various kinds of therapy types and so forth, have worked very hard to get him where you see him today. So when you pile on with my son, I get it. But at the same time, I would love it if people would understand not everybody you deal with is like you. Not everybody you deal with is like your child. Okay? And so where I can honestly say, I appreciate the problems that you have with my child, I can say that, right? But, and I certainly appreciate the problems you have with me as a parent. I have to tell you, whether you believe it or not, piling on me or on him not only is not helpful, but it's almost exactly the opposite of what he needs. What he needs typically is calm, rational behavior. So just sort of summing up, because I'm coming to the point where I'm getting ready to wrap up for the day, just sort of summing up, you may think that everybody's the same. You may think that you know autism. And I'm here to tell you, first of all, everybody is not the same. And second of all, you may know mild autism, but for most people, they have very little experience with moderate or severe autism, okay? So keep that in mind as you're going through your day, and hopefully people will become a little more understanding. Obviously, I'm going to try and work to get my son into the places that he needs to be. Okay, time to wrap this up for the day. Hope you're having a great day. Today is Monday, as I've said, so it's the beginning of a new week for work week for many people. And I hope that that's going well for you, and I hope that the week to come goes well as well. And hopefully we'll see you again tomorrow. Tomorrow will be Tuesday, the 27th of October, 2020. Hey, I'm on a roll. I'll get this date thing right as I go along if I'm not careful. But anyway, hopefully we will see you again tomorrow. Thanks for checking out this video. Remember that you can like it on YouTube and you can give it a rumble on Rumble if you want to do that. I have channels on both YouTube and Rumble. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels. You can subscribe to either one of those if you want to do so. Remember, if you subscribe on YouTube, you probably want to click the notification bell in order to be notified of new content. If you want to see more from me, you can check me out on my blog. That's blogs.kpschubert.com, blogs.kpschubert.com. You can also see my Facebook page. That is Kurt's Religion and Politics on Facebook. You can check out my Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com accounts. My handle on all three of those is at kpschubert. That's at kpschubert. You can check out my podcast. The podcast is at podcasts.kpschubert.com. That's podcast.kpschubert.com. And finally, you can check me out on Patreon. And if you want to support me, that's probably one of the better places that you can do that. I am Kurt's Religion and Politics there. Thanks again for checking out this video, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.